Good morning, everybody. How is everyone doing today? It is America's Supermom, and I am just honored to have Susan back with me today. Last week, I don't know what happened, but I'm like, I can't hear you, thinking it's her, and it was my equipment. So, needless to say, I'm not tech savvy, but I am just so excited to have a conversation with her. She is actually from Australia, and I was able to be on her show a few weeks ago, and I am just honored and overjoyed to have her here with me today. So, before we get started, Susan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know a little bit about you?
Hello. So thank you so much, Lachelle. It's been an absolute pleasure to be back again this week after such a wonderful time we had last week. I loved every minute of it. My name is Susan Kathleen, and I am currently from Brisbane, Australia. I am a bestseller author of the book Awaken Your Mind Magic. No. Um, I am actually the podcast host of that one. And I'm the bestseller author of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. It's a self-help book, and it's written to help people who have been through a pretty bad patch and start to understand themselves better. And basically, that's what it is. That's who I am. I'm a life coach and hypnosis practitioner. And I adore Lachelle because I've
Oh.
interviewed her on my podcast. And last week, she put on an entertainment for me that made me feel fantastic.
Yeah, you know what? I have just learned that life happens. Just a quick story before we get started. So I am on a panel of with the women. It's six of us who discuss mental wellness just once a month. So we had to do a live broadcast yesterday talking about, how serious it's getting with the winter months. Needless to say, I'm doing this broadcast in the main area where my kids are having homeschool, and they're fine usually. Everyone has their headsets on. It's just this loud ruckus. Everyone is screaming, and they're right next to me. I'm thinking, what is going on? So it was right when I had to answer. It was a scorpion in the house.
Oh,
So we were able to get it, but it's just like, you can't just have a normal day over here in the Atkins household. It has to be filmed and live and broadcast. So we got the scorpion. They were able to take me off camera for a minute. I come back on and I'm making the next answer, and it's still loud. I just can't get them all contained after that. So it was quite a day. So you never know what to expect. So I say that I'm always ready for the unexpected. So talk to everybody. Your podcast. I just want to start with the good things. This is great. Number 23 in the world, right?
it is. It was actually voted number 23 in the world top 50 for October. And I started it in January. And I'm blown away. It's where you put your mind and how you think things should go. And as a dream builder coach myself, where
Mm-hmm.
I teach people to believe in themselves,
Mm-hmm.
I told myself that I was going to get up to the top, and I did. And that was an example to my clients, because I can now say to them, if you can think it and you can dream it, you can get it, baby. So there you
That
are.
is amazing. So talk to us about your implementation of that, because this is good. A lot of people now are dreaming. They want 2021 to be different than how 2020 has been. So talk to us about how you were able to strategically accomplish that. What are some non-negotiables on that path to making that a reality?
So I was very fortunate. I went and studied with Mary Morrissey in LA
Mhm.
and basically it's a 12-month course that you have to get through. You have to sit your tests and your exams and all sorts of things throughout the year, and you qualify at the end with with certification of being, first of all, she passes you through her basic course, which is the Dream Builder program, and then you go through to become a Life Mastery consultant. And they're known as the Brave Thinking Institute, with the most amazing people. And the programs that we study as coaches are mainly by Mary and also co-hosted with Bob Proctor.
Oh, okay.
And what we learn is the law of attraction. So that the law of attraction is just one base area. There are different areas in which we study. They are all associated with quantum and metaphysics. So
Mm-hmm.
that is where you learn that we are all energy. We are all one with the universe and with God, or universal spirit, whatever it is that you want to call this fantastic, amazing source that we actually can connect with and really be able to realize our dreams that we really can put into place. So what I do with my clients is I, right from the outset, help them create a blueprint, basically,
Hmm.
of their life, of
Mm-hmm.
their desires and what they really wish to have.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through that in the outset, and we it's Michelle, basically what it is it's like an architect creating a blueprint for a
Mm.
house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what my clients do is they create a blueprint for their life.
I
And so
love
they
that.
create, yes, what they do is they create and they put everything that they truly want to put together for their life. And that's
Mm-hmm.
in um, health and wellness, in love and relationships, time and money freedom, and in their business and their vocation, their calling, what they truly want to do in life. And
Mm-hmm.
they learn to live in the presence of that dream. They live it as if it's truly happening.
I love that.
And when you when you live that into reality, it it becomes, or it is, a possibility, or it's
Mm.
a reality that's really going to happen. So what you're doing is you're actually programming your brain to think that it's happening, and you're living as if it's truly happening. And the more
Mm-hmm.
you tell your brain that it's happening, the more it happens. So this may sound a
Mm.
bit far-fetched to certain people, but let's make it very simple. When you absolutely decide that you want something and you put your mind to it,
Mm-hmm.
there is no holding you back from getting what you desire.
Mm.
And on the other side, on the flip side, is we we teach our clients not to think negatively in any way, because when you do, your thoughts become things. So you
Hmm.
can so
I
when
need
you're
a pen.
thinking yeah, so when you're thinking about a whole lot of negative things,
Mm-hmm.
you become a negative person, and
Mm-hmm.
all the things that you think are going to happen to you that are really horrid start happening to you. Whereas when you learn to live a buoyant life, an optimistic life, and you teach yourself, or you learn through a coach, to be happy, to be content, to meditate, and to understand that there's a certain way of
Mm-hmm.
being, you have the ability then to live your dream into reality. So let's put it this way: you can't get to your dream, you have to come from your dream. So you have to create the dream, live within that dream, and every single day talk as if it's really happening, and it becomes reality. So that's what the law of attraction is as well, is where
Mm-hmm.
you teach yourself to be limitless.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what it is. So
That is
then,
awesome because
yeah,
you've brought up a lot of good points, and it definitely is easy to understand. And But there's a lot of people who are on that side to where we've heard this a lot of times. It is something they start, but they don't finish because they really don't get clearly about this blueprint. Now, we
Yes.
can all create a blueprint, but the process is the thing that's foreign. So it's like I can draw out what I want, a year from now or 6 months from now. I can make it clear, but it's the process to get the blueprint to be reality that is what has someone stuck. And there's so much baggage about limiting beliefs and all these different things, or the mindset and all these other elements that go into making that a reality. So if someone is here listening today and they're at that point where they do know they want something different than what they currently have, they're clear about where they want to go, what would be an easy first step for them to implement?
The first step is where they make an active decision to write down everything that they desire.
Mm,
And to make that active decision that everything they desire is written in a very specific way. So, just a simple way of putting this, when you type into Google a question about something, and it comes back to you and it doesn't answer your question, you rethink how you're going to ask Google that question, how many eggs are in a dozen, let's say, to make it very simple. And if you don't put how many eggs are in a dozen, you say how many eggs are in a box. It'll come back and give you a whole lot of different funny stuff. Whereas if you put specifically how many eggs make a dozen, it'll come back with exactly what you want. So that's the most important thing, is when you're creating that blueprint, you have to be very, very specific about what you want. Say, for instance, ladies out there or gents, they're looking for a wonderful life partner. They put in, I want a wonderful life partner. Well, what kind of life partner? What they might universe will send you back the man's best friend, maybe a nice dog who'll be with you for life. So you've got to be very specific. What you do is you go away and you make a list of exactly what you desire, and on the other hand, you've got to actually make a list of what you will do for that person you desire. Exactly, all the good things. So it works both ways, because obviously the wheel turns as well. There's reciprocation. And then you write that with the mindset of exactly that type of human, that person that you want in your life. And if you're not specific about the fact that you want a life partner or you want a husband or wife or what, it's got to be specific. The same thing with work. You may be wishing for something that you don't really want. So you say, I want a really nice job, but you don't say what it is. And so you get a job that's quite nice, but you're not really satisfied with that. So you have to be very, very specific. Now, I also am a vision board coach. And when I use all the teachings I have in life mastery alongside with a vision board. So I'll have a 4-hour vision board with people, and we basically I mentor and coach people in that period of time how to be specific on their vision board, how they put it all together. And so when you're making a life map or your blueprint, You are being very specific, and you've got to know exactly what it is that you want and desire. So that's the first step. When you're actually doing the process of dream building,
Mm-hmm.
I create, or I work a program that's three months long, 90 days, we
Mm-hmm.
talk to say, but it's 3 months, where
Mm-hmm.
there's specific lessons, there's different teachings on how to do it. And also, the most important thing as well is learning how to meditate, because there's a certain mindset that is created through meditation. And that's where you learn happiness, peace, and tranquility. So you learn to be in the presence as well, in this type of heart-centered coaching. So where you learn mindfulness, you learn
Mm-hmm.
meditation, you
Mm-hmm.
learn to be peaceful. So a lot of people who've been through, I've found that I coach people who've been through trauma, who've had certain things happen to them. They are then able to cope and learn how to use the mechanisms of meditation and mindfulness. Mindfulness, you learn to live in the present, because what humans don't understand, many of us, is yesterday's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot dwell on yesterday. Tomorrow's not come yet. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, where you and I are right now in this present time, this is where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we learn to be happy in this present time,
Mm-hmm.
right now, because this is what we're living right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hang on to past regrets, sadnesses, very often very adverse things that have happened to us in our lives, we are attached to that. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
attached to that, it has control over us. We don't have control over it. So we're giving something that's happened in our past control.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to open yourself up and realize that you are the one in charge of you,
Mm-hmm.
you have to learn also self-love. Now,
Mm-hmm.
many of us are taught by parents and people, our elders when we're young, that that's vain and selfish.
Mm-hmm.
How can it be vain and selfish if you don't love yourself? Because if you don't love yourself, how can you give love?
Right.
So I understand with you and your wonderful story,
Mm-hmm.
where there's sort of like a dive. You sort of think, well, I just can't cope, and everything is just too much for me. I'm overwhelmed. You end up
Mm-hmm.
in hospital. So you can
Mm-hmm.
make yourself sick by
Mm-hmm.
hanging on to things
Mm-hmm.
and situations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the most important thing. And I know that you in particular, when I interviewed you, I
Mm-hmm.
realized straight away how you had taught yourself to step
Mm-hmm.
away from the situation in order to be powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
this is some great stuff. So I think, where do we get it wrong? Because these are some clear objectives and easy to understand. But what is the main issue that many people struggle with when it comes to following through with this?
I think, Lachelle, and that's a good question. I think often the main issue is we are we are often made to think it's not possible.
Mm.
So again, a lot of it is to do with childhood. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of it where we small and we're growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and a little boy comes and says, "I want to be an astronaut," or a little girl comes in and says, "I want to be Miss World," and their mums and dads or grannies or somebody says, "Well, come on, honey, that's not possible."
Mm-hmm.
You think, "Well, that's not possible."
Right.
So it's a trigger, and it makes you think in a certain way. So
Mm-hmm.
as you become an adult, you think it's not possible.
Mm.
So when I say to you, your dreams can come true, Lachelle,
Mhm.
you'll say to me, how? And
Mhm.
I will say to you, you've got to learn the power of positivity. You've got to understand that where you are living in this um, in this human form, you have to
Mhm.
learn self-love first.
Mhm.
When you love yourself, you nurture yourself into believing and knowing that you have a right to have these things.
Mhm.
So to be able to answer your question further, to be able to get further and really excel and start to get well, or to be able to get what you desire,
Mhm.
your mindset has to change enough for you to believe in yourself.
Mm.
And often you find that you can't do that on your own.
Mhm.
You have to have what we call a partner in believing.
Mhm.
So somebody who truly will actually believe for you, even if you can't believe for yourself.
Mm.
So, for instance, like you as a wonderful mother with all your
Mhm.
children, your kids might come to you and say, "Hey, you know what, Mom? I'm not going to do this." But you, because you're a nurturer and you're a mum, you say,
Mhm.
"Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can do
Mhm.
it." This
Mhm.
is what you have to be able to tell yourself. So you love your children. So when you
Mhm.
learn to love yourself and you tell yourself, well, actually, it is achievable. If
Mhm.
so and so can do it, I can do it.
Mhm.
What you are with your children when you are supporting your children, you say, go out and go and do it. I'll hold space for you. That's being a
Mhm.
partner and believing. So it's imperative for us, and in particular women,
Mhm.
we must have a friend or somebody who is close enough to us to hold that space for us, where they
Mhm.
can uplift you, and that's where coaches come into line as well, because it's like going to a doctor where the doctor's holding space for you on your annual medical check, and they will
Mhm.
send out to you and say, listen, you haven't got away with this. I'm still looking after you. You come on, let me look at you every year. It's the same with your mental health and your spiritual health, on
Mhm.
how you grow and how you're going to believe in yourself.
I
So
love that.
yeah,
And
so
that's
there
easy
you are.
to, yeah, and I think you brought up a good thing about the holding space for you. And if it is a coach, I do also think it's important for people who are looking for that coach to recognize if that coach has done what they're saying. Because how can you hold space? It's the same thing with the love. We listen to everyone's sales pitch, so to speak,
Yep.
and we don't really go through and say, you know what, have they done this? We don't know the questions to ask. We get enamored by the promises. And then, when we don't have the follow through, then we're looking around saying, what happened here? So I think the element of knowing what to look for is very important, just as you mentioned, when you're looking on Google, because a lot of these things are superficial. You
Hmm.
know, when it comes to someone who has not been trained in that area, they're looking at the superficial things and don't understand the complexity of actually just asking the right questions. So one of the things you mentioned earlier, I want to go back to, is that the negative thoughts become things. And right now we have a lot of people watching the news, enthralled in, elections and, what this candidate is and does and all these different things. So walk us through how negative thoughts can become negative things.
So you talk about your elections in the States right now,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of pros and cons. I reckon you'd have that in any country with
Mhm.
elections.
Mhm.
Why would people en masse, because a whole lot of people is a whole lot of powerful energy, why would they
Mhm.
want to think negative things that will create the negativity in a country, or the
Mhm.
negativity in who you're going to vote for, and where you suddenly walk through all of that and you say, well, we are now going to have a riot because
Mhm.
we're not happy about this. So
Mhm.
any anger that's sparked from that causes that negative energy. It's the butterfly effect. So,
Mhm.
you have one group of people, the anarchists, causing trouble and really just doing it because they want to. It
Mhm.
causes an overflow, and it makes other people start to want to do something that they wouldn't normally do. So
Mhm.
anger begets anger. The Bible tells us these things as well. In all the holy books, I'm fascinated with all religions. So
Mhm.
they all tell you that what is created, whether it's good or whether it's bad, creates that type of energy. So when
Mhm.
you're in a group, think about this, Michelle. You walk into your house and your kids are happy.
Mhm.
Your whole house, even the walls of your house, because the walls have energy as well, it's
Mhm.
vibrating and it's happy.
Mhm.
And you feel good. Your spirits are uplifted. You walk into your house and your kids have had one heck of an argument. And there's one
Mhm.
lot of them there having a real, that's he said, she said, and everything. And the other lot are saying, that's not true. And you walk in there and there's this feeling, and it's like, oh, wow, I got to get out of here. That's
Mhm.
what's happening with elections as well.
Mhm.
So you have all of that.
Mhm.
So how do you get out of that? You learn to be mindful. You learn to live in the present
Mhm.
and think good thoughts.
Mhm.
So that's my answer to that.
That's good.
And good luck with your elections.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really good because, even just the pandemic and, the economy, there's so much that, people are fear-based out of.
Mm.
And, out of that fear breeds negativity and, all these different things. And even the element of feeling like it's out of control, you don't know what to do. And let's talk about that. So for people to begin to understand the elements of what they can and cannot control, when you are creating this blueprint, it's important to know what things you can and can't control. So as we mentioned even earlier, I am in this middle of this Facebook Live, and then my kids are going crazy in the background, because of a scorpion. So talking to us about, recognizing what we can and can't control and then using that in a positive way to help us move forward.
So I'm going to just bring this up here straight away.
Mhm.
You came on the show with a fabulous, funny story about your family. You
Mhm.
spoke about the scorpion.
Mhm.
Now, the scorpion, as we see it, is not a really nice thing.
Right.
It could sting you and not make you feel very good.
Mhm.
However, you've flipped it and you've spoken about that creature in a happy, funny way. So
Mm.
look at that creature as adversity and what
Mhm.
you can do with it. It can either be a bad story or a good story.
Mhm. I
The
love
good
that.
yeah, and the good side of it all is that that scorpion didn't hurt anybody.
Mhm.
So everybody looked at it and thought, "Oh my gosh, it's gonna do something bad,"
Mhm.
and it didn't. And now
Right.
even your kids are gonna go and talk about their scorpion. They're gonna have a
Right.
scorpion story. Again, that's the butterfly effect. One tiny
Mm.
thing like this can reverberate to the other side of the world, and that's just with
Mm.
one family. So we were talking about COVID-19. COVID-19 worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
in the outsets a few months ago, if you recall, you could not open your social media, whether it was Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. There were all of these videos going out every which way, and boy, were they negative.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought the whole world down.
Mm-hmm.
And then people started to think, well, hold on, this isn't a good space I'm in. Yeah, it's not so good. I'm stuck in my
Mm-hmm.
house. And then
Mm-hmm.
people started saying, hold on, I haven't had a holiday in a long, long time. I've forgotten what it's like to talk to my husband. I've forgotten
Mm-hmm.
to what it's like to give my kids a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And we've started to go back to the basics. We've started to think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, everybody I speak to worldwide has started to grow tomatoes or tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
if I write
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
or some they've started to grow things.
Mm-hmm.
They People have started their creativity. Women have got and men. Some
Mm-hmm.
are starting to knit. Others are drawing. They've
Mm-hmm.
started to do music. Other people have started to create new businesses and websites. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
before, yeah, many of us are losing our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us are being asked to leave. A lot of us are being made redundant.
Mm-hmm.
Many companies all over the world are collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the amount of entrepreneurs that have been created in the last 4 months.
Right.
And you talk about podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of people getting their word out there on a podcast or
Mm-hmm.
calling themselves for TV and they're out there on YouTube. So we've started with a different mindset because humans are amazingly creative
Mm-hmm.
to get out there and do something else. So
Right.
COVID-19, you can choose whether you want it to be a blessing,
Mm.
where we go back to our roots, which we have all been begging God, universe, whatever you want to call the big dude,
Right.
for years. We've been saying, oh, we don't like the jet trails and we don't do this and the trees are all dying and this, that, and the other. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly there are pictures everywhere of animals roaming around in the middle of cities.
Mm-hmm.
The bird flight paths are returning to what they were years and years ago before the whole world was congested with airlines. That's not to say
Mm-hmm.
that the poor people in the tourism and hospitality industries are floundering because
Mm-hmm.
they've lost their jobs. But many of them are turning around and using the experience of that to create their own little businesses.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, that is so true. And, that is really what a lot of people do need to be mindful of. And it also is a testament to being around the right people.
Yes.
I can't stress that enough during this time because you can go left or you could go right, depending on the environment that you're in.
Mhm.
So, as we conclude this, talk to us about some of your routines and strategies that you use to keep up with that positivity. Because, a lot of people's like, oh, that's easy for her. She's number 23 in the world in October for her podcast. So, of course, she's going to say all this. But what is the work that you have to do to maintain that?
You have to work really hard at it and you have to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up every morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I meditate. I write my daily affirmation because I also coach the fact that you should write every day
Mm-hmm.
because we have lost the art of that, and it's transferred brain through your arm into your hand, and
Mm-hmm.
it actually helps you coordinate and it helps you fix that idea on paper. So
Mm-hmm.
I write my daily journal, my daily affirmation, and my gratitude. And then I go for a very brisk 45-minute walk
Mm-hmm.
every morning. That's what I do. Now, I didn't do this in the beginning, and I'm letting everybody know this. I sat on my big fat bottom, and I got fatter and fatter because in the beginning, I was obsessed with learning as much as I could about podcasting. I put my mind to it, and that's what I was gonna do. And this is what I must tell people is if you truly want to do something, you choose the one thing and you do it and you do it well. Do not allow yourself the shiny ball syndrome where you get distracted and oh, I'm going to do that now and that now. You must allocate time. You come like I actively realized one day when I pulled on a pair of jeans that I couldn't do up my and I sort of thought, oh my gosh, I, people may not know this, but in the 60s and 70s, we had these really tight jeans, and the only way to get them on was to lie on your back with a clothes hanger in the zipper to pull it up.
Hey, that's even now, okay?
Yeah, and then you should go on. Well, I tell you what, even trying to do that, there was no way. So I thought, oh, Susan, this is not good. You've been so busy doing one thing, you've forgotten about your health, your body, and everything else. So I actively wrote that into my routine. And that is a very important thing for all of us to learn with COVID-19 is you write out a daily plan that you stick to. And stick to 4 really good things that make you strong, healthy, and happy in all areas of your life. So that's that. And yeah, my podcast is number 23. Next month, it may not even appear on the next month's thing because if I'm honest with everybody, I step back and I think, oh, okay, I did okay there. Then it doesn't happen. It's like anything. It's like driving a car without putting petrol into it. If you don't top up your car, how's it going to go? How are you going to maintain it? And that is how you maintain where you're going and how you're going and your journey. Your journey is you've got to understand that you don't just think it's going to happen. You make it happen.
I love that. And, one question that it also sparked for me to ask you too is, knowing how to balance the outside feedback. So you mentioned like if you're number 23 for October, you don't know about November, but knowing how to still remain steady, even though some of the outcomes don't. So like if it's like you're 23 and then you dip down or you're not even listed, how are you able to balance that?
That is an amazing question. How am I able to balance that? Again, without beating myself up and saying, oh, you haven't done well enough, because that's an overachiever. It's basically, well, that person who's number 23 next month, well done to him or her. I will rethink why I didn't get it right and how I should go about getting it right. What we do also have to understand is it's no big deal if you don't win. What it interests me is when you actually are in an area, it doesn't matter whether it's sport or art or business or podcasting, when you're in that area and you have that opportunity, that time, you sit and say to yourself, now, how can I use this to the best of my ability to uplift me onto the next rung? So what you do is you say, right, I'm going to use this publicity to be able to progress into the next field. So I'm going to use this to send out a public relations thing to Tom, Dick, and Harry that this is where I am right now. And they look at it and think, oh, okay, well, let me be a special guest on Susan's Awaken Your Mind Magic podcast, because that's how it works. So when you alleviate what you have because you've worked so hard to get there, it's you use that in the present moment, and you put together exactly what you're going to do as a business plan or a scheme to get yourself into the next échelon of podcasting or being an artist or
I
being a
love that.
singer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
and it's just one of those things too. It's the good and the bad. And I would say it's not necessarily bad. It's all in your perspective because, that's just going back to the example with the children yesterday. You have those moments where kids are going to be kids or life is happening. And, we always have highlight reels. So when you have a real life experience where there are highs and lows with the business, but you still persevere in spite of not everything being, the awards, the accolades. You do have those moments where, there is that behind the scenes of getting up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and everybody else is still asleep. They don't know the work that you're actually putting into the things that you're doing. So that's also quite a testament to your work ethic and things that you do. So I just want to highlight that because people forget that. They look at all the things you've achieved, and you can't achieve that without actually doing the work to be recognized for it. So I thought that was just profound. And one of the things too, I thought was really good. It just came to me while you were talking is, when you are meditating and then you say that you write down daily, it comes from your brain through your arm. And, that is just so profound because whatever you're meditating or thinking, you're manifesting it immediately when you write it down. Now, everybody else may not see it, but it has changed the form from being a thought to a physical thing. Like if I was to think of a lemon, and I wrote it down, then I tell that to somebody else, they already have that image. So it's been created without, just from me speaking it. So I just think that was profound that you would say
yeah,
that.
well, it really is, because a lot of people, when they're doing it, I'm an artist as well, so I end up doodling and drawing little pictures and things, and oops, and
Mhm,
that again is you creating something. It's
mhm,
and it's manifesting. It's the
mhm,
same as when we talk about getting up with a routine.
mhm,
The day before, when you are about to wind down and go to sleep, you can write what you're grateful for. You
mhm,
might have had a bad day, but
mhm,
what you do is you say to yourself, okay, I've had a bad day. What are the good things that have happened today? And you
mhm,
write down 3 things, even if it was a beautiful sunset, or if your you saw your grandchild smile for the first time, or any of these sort of things, and you write that down, and it uplifts you. It
mhm,
makes you you start to think, okay, it wasn't such a bad day because I've had these wonderful things happen. So you go to sleep more restful,
mhm,
where you wake up to the next day with a routine and you're enlightened, you're happier because you didn't go to sleep, and very likely not sleep, with
mhm,
worry. So
mhm,
again, writing down something that's positive before you sleep is
mhm,
is a really good way of not having insomnia. And
mhm,
further to that, at every Sunday, and this is what I teach my clients,
mhm,
write down 5 things that you're going to do on the 5 work days in the week.
mhm,
So you can write a list and cross out anything that doesn't look as if it's really important. You might think it is, but you go through it and you tell yourself honestly, well, is that a priority? No. So you cross it out and you get 5 things. Doesn't mean to say you're not going to do the other things, but 5 of the most important things. And you give 1 day to each of those 5 things. And you do exactly what I did with when I decided I was going to really know how to podcast. You put your mind to it and you say, today I'm only going to focus on this. Okay, I know we have kids, we have husbands, we have wives, we have all of this stuff going on. But you can work yourself around one thing instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do. I don't know what to do because you can't think straight. So on a Sunday, before you go to sleep, 5 things.
I love that.
Yeah, you complete them. And then on the next, and Saturday you have a rest. Do what you need to do the laundry, whatever. And Sunday again, you go to church, you go to the mosque, you go to wherever you want to go, and you communicate. And then evening time, you write down, you look at that list that you wrote the week before, and you say, okay, I've achieved those 5 things. Let me look at my list here. You take the next ones, and you'll find very often that you've had time when you focus on those 5 things to get 2 other things done.
Love that. That's good. And I learned, I was listening to a podcast last week and they were saying the difference between a project and a task. Most of the things that we take on that we think are tasks are really projects, because a task is something that is done in one action. So if I say, write a blog, right now, writing a blog is really a project because, you're thinking of the heading, the picture, and, where you're going to post it, how long it's going to be. I mean, there's so many decisions and individual tasks to that project. And so this is where a lot of people are overwhelmed because they're taking on more than they can handle mentally, and not really having the space to say, okay, my task is to, have an interview, but even still, that's a lot because it's like, checking the person's bio and coming up with questions. I mean, people just don't understand that some of the things that we just think, oh, I'm just going to do that, there's so much behind the scenes to it. So I love how you mentioned the 5 things. So what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
You can find me on my website, which is susankathleen.com. And I'm on all the social media links. You can find me on Facebook, Susan Kathleen Podcasting Queen.
Oh, I love it.
And you can find me on LinkedIn, and it's the same, Susan Kathleen Podcasting Queen. You can find me on Twitter as the Happy Scribbler. And you can find me on Instagram as Awaken Your Mind Magic and as the Happy Scribbler. So that's where you can find me. And I also have an awakenyourmindmagic.com website.
Okay. Let me see. I'll add that on here too. So what are you said Awaken Your Mind?
Awakenyourmindmagic.com. So
Okay.
Lachelle, when we're speaking about all of these sort of things, you think about yourself and how incredible you are and how you have to put your mind to looking after all those different characters. So it's the same as allocating time to each one of those characters and humans in your life. When you look at your task or your project, you can do that too. So you and I know when it's podcasting, it isn't simple.
Right.
You do the background research, you've got to write the emails, you've got to find the people, you've got to agree to it, then you write a review and you do all of that. I found personally, when each one of my guests, I spend the best part of 4 hours on. And more. And that's because I want to uplift them in the best possible light.
Mhm.
Consequently, it works for me too. It's a two-way
Mhm.
thing, and that's
Mhm.
again reciprocation.
Right. So true. I mean, and these are the things that people don't think about, because if you are, promoting the guests, you're creating the poster or the flyer, and there's so many different things that go into, and like you said, if you are a person who is mindful of that. If not, hey, it may not take you that long, because it's like, hey, I'm interviewing them and that's it. But if you are conscious of creating a relationship, building a brand, all the things that go into being number 23 in the world in October, you're not just doing things on the surface. So I really get that. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'm lucky. I've got an amazing team who back me up. So I've got a
Yeah,
great manager, sound man, and creative team. So I'm very, very fortunate.
that is awesome. Now, so what final words would you want to share with everybody who's listening today?
My most important thing to say to anybody who's listening, Michelle, and to you,
Hmm.
is be mindful of the one person that matters the most, and that is you,
Hmm.
because there's nobody else who walks with you, talks with you, sleeps with you,
Hmm.
cries with you, and dies with you other than you. So know yourself before you know anybody else. Understand and love yourself. And when you do that, you will find that whatever is thrown at you, be it COVID-19 or
Hmm.
elections or any of those things, when you truly know that you can love yourself
Hmm.
unconditionally, you have the ability to do that for everybody else.
Hmm. Beautiful. I love that. And, I encourage those of you that are listening, if this sounds like a foreign language to you, to reach out to Susan, because this is really a reality that can be accomplished in your own life. I know that I've lived it, and I have been fortunate to be on the other side of seeing that I know myself, that I love myself, and I can love others. So reach out to her. Her website is listed. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we will be sure to contact you and answer those for you. And give her a call. Check out our website. If this is something that you desire, we're approaching a new year. You don't want another year being like this year, for whatever reason. Maybe it's the decisions you've made, or the people you've encountered. You have a choice to do something different. So reach out to her. I encourage that today. So we want to thank you guys for watching with us, and hope you were taking some notes. Okay. I had just a little piece of paper here. Wasn't anticipating doing it, but I'm back to my old ways, because when I do a audio podcast, nobody sees us, and I'm just writing away. I have, you know, books upon books that are completed because of my podcast guests. But I'm getting back to that. It's like, hey, if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing, taking notes. And that's so important. So we want to thank you guys again. And thank you so much, Susan, for sharing all your wealth of wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and to the listeners. And I wish you all well and lots of love to you, Michelle. You're a beautiful sister. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
you
you
are
for
so
being in my life.
welcome. Thank you. Well, you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys the next time. Have a great one.